Hey, what's up? We recently saw that the All-Star starters were chosen. We were originally going to do starters and bench, but since the starters got chosen, we're probably just going to do the bench now. We're going to do the format of a wild card, so it will be 2 guards, 3 forwards, and 2 wild card picks, I guess you can say. So we're going to have to go by the book here. So I guess I'll start with the East. Starting off at the guard spots, I have Zach LaVine and Jaylen Brown as the starting for the bench. Who do you have?
I have James Harden and Jaylen Brown. I can't see how James Harden could be a wild card. I see him pretty fittingly there in the backcourt with Jaylen, just because Harden is leading in assists and, he's just been all around amazing.
Yeah, I have Harden in wild card. I didn't know if I was going to put LaVine or Harden there. I just put one or the other because I knew both of them are valid selections.
Yeah.
But it is tough, but I just put in LaVine just because he's, first-time All-Star, etc. And, maybe something could not. I don't think anything would happen to Harden because Harden has been amazing this season. So that was a dumb thought, but yeah, I think it's pretty easy to think that those 3 are going to be All-Stars this season. To be honest, it wasn't that tough for me with the East, but with the West, I had a little bit of trouble because in the West there are so many players who are deserving, in my opinion. But for the forwards in the East, I have Jason Tatum. Julius Randle, and Domantas Sabonis.
I also have Tatum and Sabonis, but instead of Randall, I have Adebayo. Because, I can't see how any of these 3 players couldn't get in. Adebayo has been having an amazing season, Sabonis just being Sabonis with all those crazy double-doubles. Randall definitely deserves it, but I just think there's so much competition that I don't think this is this year. But yeah, for the front court, I think these 3 players were my picks.
Yeah, okay. I was looking at the stats, and it was crazy to see Domantas Sabonis compared to Bam Adebayo, which is why I went with Domantas Sabonis. It's just, I'm also putting in slightly considering the team's position, so I'm like, okay, I think Sabonis is playing on a slightly better record at the moment, and he's having a little bit of better, he's having slightly better stats. So I think that's why I gave Sabonis the slight edge, but I wouldn't be mad if Bam Adebayo's in there either.
I think if you look at the rankings, New York definitely deserves an All-Star this year, and with the way Miami has been playing, they're a lot worse than New York right now, at least ranking-wise. But Adebayo has played the whole season, and it's instead of Sabonis, he's more of a defensive player. And if you look at the defensive stats he's producing, he's been an absolute monster. So I think Miami should at least have 1 All-Star. If it's not Jimmy, at least have Bam in there because, their team is so good. You can't have 0 All-Stars from the Miami Heat.
Yeah, makes sense. Makes a lot of sense. So for the wild card picks, it could be any position, right? Any.
Yeah.
Either. Yeah. So I had technically Trae Young and James Harden, but it could also technically be Trae Young and anybody else on the ballot. But I have Young and Harden. Harden's been amazing. Trae Young has been amazing as well. There's no need to say anything else about how good they've been this season.
Yeah, I have Trae Young, but I also have Ben Simmons. And the reasoning for me picking Ben Simmons is he's actually had pretty similar stats to the rest of his years in the league. It's not like he took a huge dip. Plus, he recently had a 40-point game against the Utah Jazz, meaning he is, capable of doing these things. Plus, I think the biggest thing is probably his defense, and he's getting some kind of defensive player nods, as well as first team. And we know he's been first team already, so he can do it.
He'll definitely be all defensive All-NBA this season. He's been clamping it up this season.
Yeah, but I think why I picked Simmons instead of anybody else is because, the Sixers are first place. And I think having just 1 All-Star for that first place is kind of weak. I think Simmons also deserves it, as well as, players like Tobias Harris, who I actually looked up. He's had an amazing season. And I know we've joked about how can Harris be an all-star? But he's actually had some pretty decent stats. But
isn't he averaging around? I think he's averaging around 20 this season on really good efficiency.
Yeah, almost 50, 40, 90. It's crazy how many players are doing the 50, 40, 90 now.
It's absurd.
Yeah, but Simmons, because Philly's first place, and I feel like they should have 2 All-Stars. With Embiid, I think Simmons is a perfect fit. So for me, all in all, it's Harden and Brown in the backcourt, Tatum, Adebayo, and Sabonis in the frontcourt, and wildcards are Simmons and Young. I had to leave Randall and Levine out because, I mean, they deserve it. They should be first-time All-Stars, but I think some of the other players have been a little bit better.
Yeah, I'm not mad at that. It's just absurd to think that players who are averaging 25 plus won't be an all-star. It's just a little bit absurd to think about that.
Oh, we saw Beal last year, so
yeah,
it's nothing new.
Averaging 30. So I guess we can go on the West now.
No, I actually have 2 questions regarding the all-stars. Who else do you think deserves it other than like the ones we mentioned? Who deserves a nod? At least recognition.
I think Jeremy Grant deserves a lot of recognition. He's been very good this season. And I'll give a slight nod to Colin Sexton as well. Because Cleveland have been amazing. He's averaging over 20 as he did the same last season, but he's averaging over like 23, I think, 24. Cleveland started hot. They've dipped a little bit since that hot start, but I think Colin Sexton at least deserves a couple of votes, and I think Jeremy Grant and Gordon Hayward deserves a few votes because I know Gordon Hayward's been really good this season.
I would also like to shout out Nikola Vucevic, absolutely carrying the Magic. I know they don't have a good record, but the stats he's producing is absurd. He recently got a triple-double. I don't know if it's his first one, probably not, but he's been having monster numbers ever since Aaron and Gordon got injured.
The most underrated player in the league.
Yeah, we also have Butler, but I don't think he played as many games or was as good as like previous years. So picking any other player would probably be better than Butler. We also have Middleton, who's been an all-star like the past 2 years. And, some people actually have him as an all-star this year, averaging also good efficiency, but I just think there are better players in front of him this year. At least Randall. I think Randall and Levine are probably like, if somebody gets injured or something, those are the players I would probably put in. But do you see both, like, if it were to happen, do you see both Levine and Randall being in the all-star game? Or just like one in the best case scenario?
Probably just one of them, best case scenario.
Yeah.
Because the NBA loves they love their best teams in the league, and they love the marketing, so they're probably going to say, oh yeah, we're probably going to just do one of them and have like a player in a great team on the second one. That's what I think.
No, it's the coach's decision overall. So
coach's decision, yeah.
It's going to be Doc versus Quinn Snyder.
It's also, what I thought was also really cool was I forgot who it was, but it was a player, and it was player votes compared to media votes. I think it was Doncic and Lillard. They were comparing them both, and Lillard was leading in players and coaches vote compared to fan votes. What do you think about that?
I think Luka could be getting a little bit more praise just because, he's known worldwide. He's beloved in Europe most likely, so a lot of European fans vote for him. I think that may be the case, but even Luka said himself, I think last night, that he thinks Lillard has outplayed him a little bit this year, and he probably deserves it a little bit more than himself.
Yeah, Lillard played himself into the MVP race after having amazing performance after amazing performance.
But also talking about like the votes and everything, I think Kyrie was 4th in media vote, while Jalen was either 1st or 2nd, showing that like even though he's never been an all-star, like the media and the players are recognizing Jalen. So he should definitely be, like, even though it's his first time, he's definitely, like, made himself a case for being a first-time all-star.
Yeah, he's 100%, earned himself. As we talked about how Boston Celtics kind of formed themselves, as instead of it being Jaylen Brown's team, it's kind of like 1A and 1B with Jalen and Jason, because both of them can, they can pop off at any second by the looks of it.
Yeah. Do you think if everybody was healthy from the East, would like something change? Do you think somebody would get it instead of somebody else?
I don't. To be honest, I have no idea. I have no clue because we already know what all the guys would do. But is there any player? I don't know if anybody's currently injured at the moment.
We're not injured right now, but
prove
like
themselves.
they've been having like tough starts to the season, like Butler having COVID and then Kemba being out. But I think Kemba, like, even though he's still recovering, like, he's shown glimpses, but he's not necessarily as good as like previous years.
No, it's been crazy up and down with Kemba.
Yeah, but like I think if he played like, you know, the whole like 30 or 25 games that we've had, he should get a nod because, you know, he was a starter last year.
Yeah, he was.
But I think it was also a weaker conference. We have a lot more better players now.
Yeah, I mean, James Harden and Kevin Durant were in the West at that point. No, wait, yeah, Kevin Durant was injured for the entire year, and Harden was at the West, so...
I think Kyrie... Did Kyrie play? Or did he have some nagging injuries as well?
I don't think...
Oh, because it was Trey and
Kyrie
Kemba
played.
starting. Yeah, it was Trey. Yeah, okay, that makes sense because now like it's a little bit more tougher this year.
Yeah, Jeremy Grant was also at the Nuggets at that point, so... There's a lot of new players showing up to the East now.
Yeah, have most improved players been all-stars in the same year? I'm trying to think of it now. I don't really think so.
In the same year, who won last? Brandon Ingram was last season.
Okay,
He was an all-star last
yeah.
year.
But like before that, we had, you know, players like Ryan Anderson, and even now we have most likely Christian Wood or Jeremy Grant, but I don't really think any of those are gonna get, you know, gonna be all stars.
Is it maybe because people are telling? Oh, it's probably because people are telling them, hey, you're gonna be winning Most Improved Player, so maybe don't be an all-star this season. Do you think it's like that?
No, why would it be like that?
I don't know. It's just a thought. Maybe
I think I think, you know, they've given themselves a case for why they should be recognized as one of the best players, but I still think like the players who have already proven themselves are still clearly much better. I think maybe that's the case because I would never take Jeremy Grant over players like Sabonis, Adebayo, or Tatum, so I can't really see him fitting in the All-Star game, at least this year. But I guess it all depends on like which players are getting like the MIP nods or anything. Like some years, like perhaps Ingram, he definitely deserved it, but this year I don't really feel like the players that are in for the conversation really are all-stars.
Okay, I understand that. Do you think we should go to the West now?
Yeah.
All right, for the West, at guards, I have Damian Lillard and Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah, same here. I think this is a no-brainer.
No-brainer. At forwards, I have Paul George, Zion Williamson, and Anthony Davis.
Paul George. I had Zion a little bit elsewhere. I have Gobert and Davis. But I already know Davis is most likely going to be injured and not ready for the game. But knowing what the coaches will vote, I can't see Anthony Davis not making the All-Star game. Even though he has been on and off this year, pretty inconsistent, he still is probably one of the best big men in the league, so I put him in there.
Yep. And then we have wild card. I have Christian Wood and Brandon Ingram.
Ooh, interesting. I don't know if Wood also would be healthy for the game, but for me, I put Booker and Zion Williamson in the wild card.
Okay.
And they're like in the West, there are so many players who deserve it as well. Like who we didn't.
It's actually absurd.
Like perhaps even Chris Paul. Like Phoenix are fourth place now, and it's pretty hard choosing between Booker and Paul because they've both been good. Booker hasn't really been up to his standards, but he's still averaging 24 points, and Chris Paul has been, you know, carrying what he did with Oklahoma to this year. And it's kind of hard choosing like one out of the two. You know?
Yeah, it is. And I think the way we have the bubble format and the fact that there are few fans in the stands. There are a few fans, but it's not to the point that you can feel the crowd make a difference. I think that's what I feel, and I think that's a huge reason for why we're seeing players, as you said, nearly averaging 50, 40, 90.
Okay.
Which kind of also helps with, you know, players having absurd stats, meaning potentially for more snubs. I think that's kind of what's going on here.
Okay, but what do you think of Booker and Paul, that situation? Does one deserve it more than the other? And
It's very tough grasping that because both of them have been amazing. Booker's taken a slight step down. I think he's averaging around, 20 points? Just
24.
20 flat? 24?
Yeah.
He's averaging 24, and I know he's playmaking really well, and his efficiency is really good as well. But I don't know. To be honest, I don't know. This is why this is so tough. I could, as we talked about the most improved player, those arguments, I could maybe, for example, put Booker over Wood, and nobody would argue. But we could also put Chris Paul over Wood, and nobody would argue either. Yeah. But if we put both of them together, maybe somebody will say, oh yeah, maybe he deserved it more than him because, they play on the same team and, stats will kind of maybe go against each other. But it's very tough to try and vote this with the wild cards because anybody in any position can get in. And because there are so many valid candidates, it just makes it all the more tougher. But
wait, did you have Gobert in your ballot or not?
No, I didn't.
You didn't have Gobert? Interesting.
No.
Because I feel like the same situation with Philly, like their first place, they should have 2 All-Stars this year.
Yeah, hasn't that normally been the case for a few years now?
Yeah, and I think there's a perfectly good reason for it. It's the best team and probably has the best players. And I think Gobert and Mitchell have showed, why they're the best players at their respective, positions. Yeah, that's what I would do with Gobert. But even Conley, some people are saying Conley should get in.
Yeah, Conley's been very slept on this season.
He's not averaging mind-boggling numbers, but he's definitely better than last year, and I think he's one of the reasons why Utah is doing so well.
Yeah, definitely. And I also saw something about the Utah Jazz. It was about all-stars, and a guy put in that Utah Jazz are all-stars in itself, kind of like they play amazing as one, and they've been destroying teams. What do you think about that?
Kind of reminds me of the slogan Boston had when they had Isaiah Thomas in their team. Their slogan was something like we are one all-star. Just because they didn't really have, well, except for Isaiah, of course, they didn't really have any good players, as in who could be considered for an all-star vote. But playing all together with Brad Stevens, he knew ways to make them play good. So I think, and even for Utah right now, I think Snyder has done an amazing job, finding all the players he needs in the right spots and running all the plays they need. I mean, at some points they've just been looking like the Harlem Globetrotters with the way they've been moving the ball.
Yeah, definitely.
Utah for sure deserves 2 All-Stars, and I think Conley as well is definitely there for at least consideration. But out of everybody we talked about, is there any other players from the West that should at least get a nod?
I think he's been injured for quite a while, but I'm putting in CJ McCollum. He has had a career. I think he's had a career year. He averaged 27 at one point, and Portland have been starting to win more games, so maybe that will help him. So I definitely think CJ McCollum deserves some, and I think I think Ja Morant deserves a couple of votes as well because he's been really good this season despite being injured for a while. But I think he deserves a couple, but he's not an all-star this season.
Yeah, I mean, if they both weren't injured, I think CJ for sure would have been an all-star. But what I think is pretty funny is that the team's doing better without him, so I think that's a little bit of nod to Lillard about how he is so good, instead of saying that this should help CJ's case. But CJ is most definitely not getting in. First of all, he's still gonna be injured by the time the game is happening, and second, he's just missed too many games. But I agree with the fact that he's had an amazing year so far. And Portland, what are they? 5th place, 18-11. They've went 8-2 in their past 10 games without Nurkic and CJ. They're gonna be crazy once the playoffs come. If they add the players and make it all work out.
Yeah, and the issue with Portland is that every year they always have an injured, it's always an amazing player that's just injured for an extended period of time, which is why we don't see, Portland being their full potential. And I think many want to see that because they made the the Western Conference Finals at one point.
Without Nurkic is what is crazy.
So if we have everybody being healthy for the majority of the season, let's say a couple players can miss a couple of games.
Yeah.
But if they get 10 to 15 games all together in one stretch, let's say they win their last 3 games going into the playoffs, they will be a huge problem for every team they're playing. And I've said that many times. Solely because of how clutch Damian Lillard is, how amazing CJ has been. We all know what Nurkic can do, and all the other role players that they have that are willing to buy into the system.
The thing is, they've really stepped up. Like, Canner has stepped up, Derek Jones, even Gary Trent. I think he's averaging close to 20 points since he's starting. So it shows, like, they have some ballers.
Man.
But yeah, I think this year, unfortunate with the injury for CJ, but I think this year, I think it's just Lillard from Portland that deserves it. But I think if we recognize any other players, what do you think of DeMar DeRozan?
It's absurd how underrated he is, and I'm a little bit mad that I didn't mention him because he's been one of the most underrated players this season, along with Nikola Vucevic, I'd say. He's been excellent at playmaking. You can see how Pop's system has changed DeMar's game. Because when he came into the league, he was just slashing. With San Antonio, he was getting near triple-doubles at times. He was getting 7-8 assists a game at one point. And plus, he's being very efficient. You know how good he is at the mid-range. You know he can drive. But he could get a couple rebounds, assists, and score.
And he's starting to shoot threes as well.
Yeah, I noticed last season he took a couple of threes.
And this year it's even more. Meaning he's, like, trying to expand his game even though, like, he's in his prime already.
That's absurd. It's sad DeMar, I'm looking at the fan votes. DeMar DeRozan is not even top 10. You know, Klay Thompson has 225,000.
DeRozan's not even top 10.
Yeah, Klay Thompson has 225,000 and he's 8th. Alex Caruso is 10th.
I did not know DeRozan didn't get in the top 10. Even Carmelo's there.
But that's me. That's the fan votes. That's
votes. True. But, the case for him would probably be the San Antonio 6th place, you know? 16-11. They've had a great year so far with, the players they have.
Yeah, they have so many players that are worthy of a couple of the awards. I have one for 6th man, one that deserves a little nod for most improved, and even DeMar DeRozan with All-Stars. You know, San Antonio, they have been turning a lot of heads this season.
Denver's 7th, man. San Antonio's 6th. Come on. They definitely deserve some recognition. And, if they were to deserve recognition, I think DeMar is, a perfect case for maybe a wild card. Maybe if Davis gets injured. I mean, he is injured, and they're probably going to find a replacement for him. And, it's most likely going to be a front court player, so why not DeRozan?
Yeah, why not?
And another case would probably be Ingram. Because even though, they're 12th place, and Zion's most likely outplaying him, at least points-wise, Ingram's still been a solid player, and he also deserves a nod.
Yeah, I think Ingram should definitely be in. He's him and Zion are almost the only players to keep, the Pelicans afloat at this point.
Also, a player we haven't talked about, De'Aaron Fox. Man, what a season he's had so far.
Look at the amount of players we have been talking about now in the West, and tell me that the amount of snubs that's going to happen this season, it's absolutely absurd.
Yep, but I also think the East has some pretty solid players.
East has snubs and the West has snubs. De'Aaron Fox has been destroying the league this season.
And it's so sad, Sacramento's back to mediocrity. They had that one good year where they nearly made the playoffs, and now
they were the 9th seed.
Yeah,
and that everything went down when Sacramento hired Luke Walton as a coach. There are so many, I'm not going to question him, but there's some stuff he would do that I would not do. For example, they had, Buddy Hield on the bench. It was once at a game-winning situation. Buddy Hield was at the bench. He is a three-point champion. He is an amazing three-point shooter. Why is he not on the floor?
He has been pretty sloppy though. I think right now they're starting Corey Joseph, not even Tyrese Halliburton.
Yeah, that's.
I would at least do Tyrese at this point. Tyrese is much better. He fits like the timeline. Buddy Hield is already 27, so it's not even the same timeline as De'Aaron Fox, really.
It is a little bit weird to think that, Buddy Hield is 27, but didn't he play he played college for all 4 years, if I'm correct, right? Or
Most
3
likely,
years.
yeah. And now it's like his 4th or 5th year in the league as well.
Damn.
Yeah, so, and I mean, yeah, with the coaching situation, the Sacramento front office probably thought Dave Yeager was doing too good of a job. So they're like, oh yeah, let's fire his head.
That makes no sense.
Well, that's Sacramento for you.
That is Sacramento.
So many players. Like you could even make like a second All-Star game. It would probably be as good as all right, not as good, but like there's still some solid players.
It's kind of like this. Yeah. If you made the second All-Star team, and people would say this is your All-Star team, people would not argue that because there are so many good players.
Yeah.
People wouldn't necessarily argue, oh yeah, he deserves it, he deserves it. It would kind of be like that.
And what do you think of like the actual All-Star game happening? Like at first it was just naming the All-Stars and so be it, but now Adam Silver is actually going to have the All-Star game at Atlanta, start of March.
I'm going to be honest, I don't think it should happen. Like I think players should be able to, say, hey, I'm an All-Star, let the votes happen, but don't let it be a game where, players from all these different states, some have had positive COVID tracing, go to one place, potentially spread it even more, and then go back to the teams you're playing for, potentially spreading it even more. So I had a slight idea. Maybe, let's say you're an All-Star, choose a charity you can donate from, or I don't know if you've seen it in places such as Oklahoma and Texas. You've seen all this crazy snowstorms that's happening. Have you seen the stuff?
Yeah.
Maybe players can donate to that because they're an All-Star. I think if you're an All-Star or if you win the skills or dunk challenge, you get some incentives off of that. So I think maybe instead of having an All-Star game or instead of dunking, you get to donate to a cause. Donate to a cause that actually matters, because in the end of the day, the NBA players, they are millionaires. A couple are billionaires. Their situations are good enough. Why not give to the people who actually need it instead of, letting an All-Star game happen? That's just my opinion.
I think last year was like whichever team won, they donated to like the charity of their cause, which was pretty cool. But one thing I have to say, do not let Stephen Curry shoot for charity. We know what happened.
Oh my god. Yeah, if I'm correct, didn't he brick all these half-court shots?
Yeah, every time it's charity, he never hits anything.
It was for the Sager Foundation, if I believe.
Yeah, it's
my god.
But yeah, for what I think of the All-Star game, it's just for the money, and players are mad because they much rather use this time to go see their families, because they're just not allowed to see their families at this point. Well, some people mainly are, but I think for some they haven't seen their families in months now. So, and now being named All-Stars and having to go through all these protocols again and everything, I think they would much rather not be a part of the game and actually see their family.
With what I said about maybe donating to a better cause, do you think there should be another solution to this?
Of how to do the All-Star game this year?
Yeah.
I think your solution's pretty good. Just not have the game happening. Maybe some other festivities, most likely online. Just have that festive vibes going on. But having the All-Star game happen, I mean, we all know it's just for the money. But most of the players are really not happy about it.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the dunk contest, for example, why not have the dunk contest on Zoom? We have all 4 candidates in, for example, one gym or backyard. They get to do their dunks on Zoom. The judges can be on Zoom, give their scores in the chat, and then have it that way instead of everybody in one building.
Yeah, I mean, it's just more protocols and more stuff, but fans will be happy to see it, but the players are obviously not happy about it.
They're not. It's kind of like, hey, I need you help. It's like in a work situation, hey, work overtime, even though everything is crazy that's going on here. just take that shift, take that little extra shift for us.
Yeah, it's sad.
Okay, what if a huge turn happens and the players decide not playing? What if they decide to boycott the All-Star game?
Well, I guess then there's only one solution. It's just not gonna happen.
One solution. It ain't happening this time. But yeah, we've talked about the East and the West. We've talked about bench players. I think one common notion with this is there are so many snubs. There's so many players deserving of being an All-Star. Expect many hurt feelings, many hurt egos because they were not an All-Star. But however, I don't think they'd be mad either because maybe a couple don't want to do it.
Well, I guess we'll see in the next episode who made it and who didn't.
We'll see. We'll probably react to, the All-Star teams. Some shocks, but there won't be many. We'll probably say he deserves it, but maybe why not he was. But yeah, we've said who we think should be All-Stars. See ya.
Take care.